Next up, we have House File 877, Representative Hill. Let me get myself adjusted here. Representative Hill, welcome to your committee. Would you like to move that House File 877 before the committee with the intention to lay the bill over for possible inclusion in the Education Finance Bill?
Would like to do that, to move it forward.
All right, so we have House File 877 before us. Representative Hill, why don't you go ahead and introduce your bill?
Thank you, Chair Joachim. Members of the committee, I'm here to speak to Bill House File 877, which is known as the Transportation Sparsity Revenue Bill. This is a bill that has been in place over time. Approximately 25 years ago, we saw the metric that was utilized to fund transportation in our larger geographic districts really begin to take a toll. And over time, a bill that's been often carried by former Representative Bob Detmer from Forest Lake and has generated and brought a lot of support around it. Here's the gist of it. We have school districts around.
Representative Hill, can you move the microphone a little bit closer?
I'm happy to. Yep.
Thank you.
Around Minnesota, as you know, we have school districts of various shapes and sizes. And this is a bill that takes a look at the number of students that a school district serves per square mile that is found within the boundaries of that school district. And our hope here would be to support our school districts that are transporting students further, thereby incurring greater costs. I would like to move into hearing some of our testimony. We have some experts around this bill and what the support has meant to them in the past, and our hope is to increase that support to keep up with higher fuel costs, et cetera, to support this work. So, Madam Chair, if I could, I'd like to call our testimony providers, Dr. Steve Massey, followed by Dr. Michael Funk, who has brought with him Operations Director Mark Drummerhausen, and also Superintendent Olson from Bemidji Schools.
Thank you, Representative Hill. With that, why doesn't we have Dr. Steve Massey and Dr. Michael Funk? Why don't you come on up to the table and introduce yourself for the record? And Dr. Massey, you can proceed. Oh, Representative Hill, you have to actually stay at the microphone, okay, so the other one can sit. Sorry about that. Little weird protocol we have here. Dr. Massey, proceed.
Good morning, Madam Chair, and thank you, representative members of the committee. Thank you for this opportunity this morning to testify on behalf of House File 877. Representative Hill, thank you for your leadership on this critical issue. I think you referenced that I might be an expert. I'm not so sure about that, but I'm certainly extremely passionate about this issue. Briefly, the issues related to school transportation funding inequities go all the way back to 1995, when the legislature changed transportation funding to a per pupil basis rather than a metric that covered the real costs incurred by districts to transport students. Transportation sparsity aid was added to help districts that were negatively impacted by this change. Today, the sparsity formula covers only 18.2% of districts' transportation deficits. Forest Lake Area Schools is a district just 25 miles north of St. Paul, Minneapolis. Our district covers approximately 220 square miles with an enrollment of just under 6,000 students. On an average day, our 82 buses cover a two-tiered system and as a total, drive over 5,500 miles each day. This is the distance between Key West to Anchorage every day. As I stated a moment ago, transportation is based on student enrollment, not the miles a district must drive to transport students. Consequently, districts with a large geography and a dispersed housing like Forest Lake and many other similar districts must offset their transportation costs from the general fund. Specifically, Forest Lake draws approximately $500,000 from the general fund every year to cover this transportation deficit. To offset this cost, we have reduced 8 routes in the last 2 years, resulting in longer bus routes for students. We now have some students that ride the bus for close to 2 hours each day. The issue is an issue of fairness and equity. $500,000 is equivalent to 8 teachers or critical services we are not able to provide for our students. House File 877 specifically calls for an increase in the supplemental transportation sparsity rate from 18.2% to 70%. This increase is consistent with the recommendation from the Governor's School Finance Working Group, of which I was a member. Thank you, Madam Chair, and I would be happy to answer any questions after my colleagues from Bemidji and Stillwater testify.
Thank you, Dr. Massey. Next up, we have Dr. Michael Funk from Stillwater Area Schools.
Good morning. I am Mike Funk from Stillwater. I've been superintendent there since July. Previously, I was the superintendent in Albert Lea for 13 years. So sparsity aid is something that I'm quite familiar with, being from outstate Minnesota originally, and now being in a large, geographically diverse district, as in Stillwater. Our district, from north to south, is over 25 miles long. So again, just as Dr. Massey was talking about with Forest Lake, we share some of the similar concerns. We have about 120 buses that we run on a daily basis, and we run 3 tiers. And not only do we transport our students, but we transport a number of private schools and charter schools within the district as well. As you are all aware, from what you have read or seen over the past few years, inflation has been had a significant impact on district operations. It has on operations, globally, I think it has. We have, particularly within the area of transportation, have a shortage of drivers that we have been dealing with primarily because we can't afford them. Also, fuel prices have gone up significantly, and yet, we receive similar sparsity aid that we have for years and years and years. So as a result of that, the district is having to make adjustments in some areas so that those adjustments are impacting kids. For example, as I mentioned, we have students as far south as Afton and as far north as Marina and St. Croix. We used to run activity buses for those students and provide transportation so that they could be in programs after school. We can't do that anymore because we can't afford it. And as a result, we've eliminated those services, and we've impacted the equity of opportunity for a number of our students. We also have some special elementary programs that we run in the district. We've got a GATE program for gifted and talented, and we have a Spanish immersion program. And we are having a hard time trying to figure out how we are going to continue to offer the GATE funding that we have for transportation. And, we would like to expand it to our Spanish immersion program, but frankly, we can't because of the increased costs that we're associated with. So I just want to emphasize today how if, this House File 877, which I'm completely in support of, were to pass, this wouldn't be additional dollars flowing in for extra services. We would be restoring some basic services in Stillwater, that we have had to cut over the years. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Funk, and as a proud alum of Stillwater with nephews and a niece there right now, thank you. Next up, we have Dr. Jeremy Olson, Superintendent of Bemidji Area Schools. And I have been up to visit your bus area before and know your challenges. Please state your name for the record. Proceed.
Sure. Hello, everyone. I'm Jeremy Olson. I'm the superintendent of Bemidji Area Schools. Want to thank you all for being here and the important work that you do on behalf of education. It is appreciated. We do recognize and see that from people, from the superintendents, principals, teachers. We do understand the important work you guys do. So thank you for having us here today. I'm here to talk to you obviously about House File 877 And I want to also thank Representative Hill for the work to bring this forward. This is an important issue, and is an important issue that just gets larger and larger as we see fuel prices rise, as we see the cost of buses rise and so forth. Bemidji area schools serves approximately 4,800 students, pre-K through grade 12. We provide transportation services for a lot of schools. So we provide transportation services for 20 different school sites over 825 square miles. We provide 11 transportation services to 11 public schools, a juvenile detention center, 4 charter schools, and 4 private schools. I want you to keep that in mind because Bemidji is unique in that we have charter schools and private schools that we service for transportation. However, when the expenditures outweigh the revenues, it is not the charter schools, it is not the private schools that pay for that. It comes out of public school educational aid. So we transfer dollars from public schools to pay for transportation to supplement private school and charter transportation as well. So I just want to make sure that point hits home with you, that public schools are the ones that are responsible for providing transportation. Therefore, when we have a deficit, a cross subsidy here in transportation, it is public schools that bear the brunt of that. And we're coming to you with a solution with House File 877 to help remedy that, or at least partially remedy that. There's a map of a district overlay of the metro that shows Bemidji area schools and what that looks like. And just to give you an understanding of how large our district is and why we have to run the transportation that we do. If you look at that map, you will notice that the boundaries of Bemidji area school district encompass 825 square miles, which is, by the way, just for reference, 2/3 of the size of the state of Rhode Island. So just think about that. 2/3, if we were in Rhode Island, our district would make up 2/3 of that state, just in transportation area. As we overlay the map on the district for the metro, it stretches from Albertville, if we were to overlay Bemidji, Albertville to Rosemount. While the city of Bemidji proper is about the size of the Richfield School District. However, even though we are much larger in transportation area than Richfield, our student population is about the same, which is why we have to run much farther and run a lot more buses because we just have inefficiencies built in with that kind of square mileage. The issue is that we have a much larger transportation footprint and we are on par with the enrollment of Richfield. Since transportation is paid out by enrollment and not miles driven, Bemidji's transportation costs per student will be much larger as we are required to transport our student population much further. In essence, this means more bus routes, more fuel, more personnel, and more miles on our buses. Keeping in mind that as diesel prices increase, it disproportionately hurts Bemidji area schools. Because we are such a large district and we have students living in such a sparsely populated area, we end up driving so many more miles per student than tightly populated urban school districts. The standard funding formula is not enough for us in Bemidji, and we run a deficit anywhere from $430,000 a year to $1.1 million a year. I also want to point out that where we have that $430,000 and some of those lower dollar amounts, that was not a result of our need going down. That was a result of us not running school the entire year because we would have shutdowns and so forth for COVID. So that's artificially lowered there. If you look at our historical deficit, we're about $1 million per year that are going again from public schools to fund transportation for all schools. Charter and private schools do not have to transfer this funding from their educational programs, as is the public school's responsibility to provide transportation. Public schools should not have to use general fund classroom dollars just to get kids to school. We believe in getting kids to school, don't get me wrong. But we believe that we should also, because this is a mandate by the state, we believe that the state should provide a fix. Along with keeping money out of the classroom, we find ourselves unable to keep our bus purchase rotation up to date due to these funding losses, while also driving 1.2 million miles per year. Currently, we are purchasing only 2 buses for replacement. This isn't enough. This is not sustainable. We can't drive buses for 35 years. We need to look at a solution that will be sustainable over time and ensure that we can continue to provide this important service to parents. We know that during the pandemic, when we had limited busing, that put a strain on parents. We know how important this service is. The transportation funding formula is simply not working for Bemidji area schools, and we are asking for your support through House File 877 so that school districts like Forest Lake, Bemidji, and several other districts can be made whole. We are required to provide transportation for all schools in our district, including charter and private schools, and I would ask that we be provided the funding to fulfill this mandate instead of taking it out of public school education dollars. Thank you.
Thank you, Superintendent Olson. With that, members, I'm going to just make a note that you have a fiscal note in your folder on this bill, and then also I'm going to have Mr. Strom go over how to read the runs that are with this bill as well, just as a refresher. Mr. Strom?
Madam Chair, members, thank you. If you have questions on the fiscal note, please direct those to Ms. Beckel. In terms of the printout, there's an estimated printout landscape on your page that shows districts' current transportation sparsity revenue. It's basically a printout that's laid out in our usual way in school district order. So for example, on the first page, the Bemidji School District is number 31, and you can see the numbers across for Bemidji. The two districts from Washington County are in the 830s, and you can look there for their information. But to use Bemidji as an example, you can see that they're estimated to have 5,099 pupils next year. The baseline transportation sparsity revenue is expected to be about $1 million, presuming no changes, which is about $200 per pupil unit. The next two columns show the estimated, for the current year, the estimated transportation expenditures. And you can see there, but for this year for Bemidji, that would be $3.7 million is the current estimate. And the current transportation revenue, which includes some of the general fund revenue in terms of how we make that calculation, of $2.9 million. So you see the unfunded difference there is currently in the next column over $774,000 for the Bemidji School District. Of that amount, currently $140,000 is being reimbursed through the 18.2% reimbursement level. Under House File 877, the next column shows that that amount would increase to $542,000. So that the second to last column shows an increase in revenue for the Bemidji School District of $400,000, or roughly $80 per pupil unit. As the superintendent mentioned, these are estimated numbers. There are reasons like the that go into the calculations that may change because of things of a school's shutdown or increased costs that a district may face. The February forecast will update these amounts, but until that time, this is our best guess for fiscal year 24. So then if you look at the top, just very quickly, you can see that on an aid entitlement basis, this change would cost about $12.36 million, and you can see the kinds of districts by strata that would benefit for the bill. So Madam Chair, in summary, that's a quick overview of the printout.
Thank you, Mr. Strom. Members, I think I'll go to questions unless you want Ms. Beckel to go over. Ms. Beckel, why don't you just quickly go over the fiscal note too?
Thank you, Madam Chair and members. Solveig Beckel, House Fiscal. Yes, the fiscal note just shows the appropriations for this that match to what Mr. Strom just laid out. Mr. Strom went over the numbers for fiscal year 24, and he was talking about entitlement numbers. So if you're looking to match the numbers in the fiscal note to what Mr. Strom just discussed, if you look at the top of page 3 of that fiscal note, the line that says transportation sparsity, that first column to the right of it there, where it says 12,366,212, that almost perfectly matches Mr. Strom's number under the column HF877 new revenue total. So that is the entitlement amount that for fiscal year 24, and then you can see the entitlement amounts for fiscal years 25, 26, and 27. Of course, with many education appropriations, those are split, or what we call 90-10. So then if you look farther down on the fiscal note, on page 3, you can see the appropriation amounts where you take 90% of the current year payment of the entitlement, and then 10% of the prior year, so we only see 90% of the amount in fiscal year '24. And that's where you get the appropriation amounts that you see on the bottom line there, and then that appear on the front of the fiscal note to get the total costs of this bill. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Ms. Beckel. And Representative Hill, thank you for letting us do a little bit of housekeeping and background on this. With that, members, I'm going to go to member questions for testifiers. Representative Edelson.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you, Representative Hill. This is such a great bill, and when I think of education finance, it's literally because of things like this. I know this has been an issue that...
Representative Edelson, can you pull the microphone a little bit? There you go. Thank you.
Is it better now?
Yes.
Okay. I know this has been an issue that has been going through the legislature for years, and how frustrating. As I'm looking at the runs, which are very helpful, thank you, Mr. Strom, for Forest Lake, Stillwater, Stillwater, wow, almost 1.5. That's a big deal. I guess with the going to Stillwater, Dr. Funk, if you said you had cut some of the after-school programming because of these numbers, and I guess I'm curious, with this funding that we would have in this appropriation, would that allow you to restart those after-school programs?
That would be our intent at this
Dr.
point.
Funk, can you state your name for the record again, please? Sorry.
Dr. Mike Funk, Superintendent Stillwater. That would be the intent, to start to bring us whole again again, it's an equity issue. We have kids who live, 20-some miles from maybe their school, and asking them to have their parents transport, when kids who live maybe a few blocks or a mile or two, it's a significant family difference. So that would be our intent, Representative. Thank you.
Representative Edelson, follow-up?
No, thank you, Madam Chair. I'm good. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, Dr. Funk, I was bused from Croywood to Oakdale every day, so I know that feeling. Members, any other questions? Representative Anderson.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I want to thank Representative Hill for bringing this forward. This is a very important issue. I think it's bipartisan. I think we all understand it's not fair to at all to harm students just because their school district has a large geography. Right now, we're taking dollars out of education, out of the classroom, to fund transportation. And I wholeheartedly support this bill. And again, I want to thank Representative Hill for all your hard work on this. Thank you.
Thank you, Representative Anderson. With that, Representative Hill, final comments on your bill.
Yeah, thanks, Chair Joachim, and thank you to our colleagues that came in from around the state to provide their testimony on this important bill. You just hit the nail on the head, Representative Anderson, that this does take dollars out of the classroom. And what our intent here with House File 877 is to put some of those dollars back where they belong in service to our students and families. I was one who benefited from activities buses when I was a middle schooler, and I know it's hard to imagine, but I at one time played basketball, and that was only possible because there was an activities bus, and met my best friend through that experience. As we move forward, I think that Superintendent Massey put it brilliantly and succinctly. This is an issue of fairness and equity, and I would urge your support of House File 877. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Representative Hill. With that, the chair lays over House File 877 for possible inclusion in an education finance bill.